above, this looks like just an ordinary city. Roofs, roads, lives. But right over there lies the reason why this place is anything but ordinary. Somewhere in this world, there are families sleeping less than a few kilometers away from flowing lava, and they know it. There are fields cultivated right beneath volcanic craters because there is no better soil on Earth. And there are cities that were once completely wiped out, only to be rebuilt right on top of their own ruins. We often think that when faced with danger, people will run away. But history tells a different story. Right now, millions of people around the world are living on land that could kill them at any moment, and they have no plans to leave. In this video, we will visit 9 towns built right on the slopes of active volcanoes. Not just to witness the grandeur of nature, but more importantly, to understand how do they live, what are they willing to sacrifice, and why, after all, knowing everything they know, do they still choose to stay? Number 9. Stromboli Island, Italy. In Stromboli, residents do not need alarm clocks. Every 20 minutes or so, shockwaves from the summit strike the town, rattling the windows of houses. That deep, rumbling explosion is the very sound that has raised generations of locals on this small island in southern Italy. The entire town is built directly on the slopes of a massive volcano rising from the seabed, a mountain that has been erupting continuously for over 2,000 years. The island is very small, less than 4 kilometers in diameter. Standing at any corner of the town, you only need to look up to see the towering peak right behind you. Sailors call this place the lighthouse of the Mediterranean because every once in a while, the mountain shoots fiery red sparks into the night sky. Children in Stromboli grow up without any fear of these noises. To them, the volcano's roar is as normal as the sound of ocean waves crashing against the black sand shores. The locals possess a special ability to read the smoke colors to predict the situation. White smoke means the mountain is breathing normally. Black smoke indicates an impending shift, and gray smoke means ash is about to blanket the rooftops. That calmness was put to the test in 2019. A major explosion suddenly triggered without warning. Fiery lava rushed down the mountainside toward the sea, scorching trees and triggering the island-wide siren system. As toxic smoke and thick ash engulfed the narrow alleys, locals and tourists had only one way to escape: rushing to the pier and jumping onto rescue boats in sheer panic. There are no cars in this town. The roads are merely narrow, stone-paved pathways, and people mostly get around on small electric scooters. Life here is completely detached from the mainland. Whenever the volcano erupts violently, high-speed ferry services are cut off, turning Stromboli into a lonely fortress in the middle of the sea. The Italian government has installed sensors and tsunami warning speakers along the coast, but everyone understands that if a destructive explosion occurs, the window of time to escape by sea is incredibly narrow. Yet, almost no one in Stromboli intends to leave for good. In the winter, the island becomes cold and desolate, with only the most resilient locals staying behind. In the summer, it is the very danger of the mountain that sustains them. Thousands of adventurous tourists flock here, hiring local guides to lead them up the slopes to witness the fiery crater firsthand. The mountain could claim their lives, but it has been the town's sole source of income for centuries. The locals refer to the mountain with a reverent term, Idu, which means he. They view the volcano as the true master of the island, while humans are merely guests staying there. For centuries, that relationship has remained unchanged. The people of Stromboli continue to live with the periodic explosions every day, accepting the geological risks in exchange for tourist revenue and sustaining their lives on that lonely island. Number 8. Pozzuoli, Campania, Italy. Located west of the Gulf of Naples, Pozzuoli is an ancient coastal town home to over 80,000 residents. On the surface, it looks just like any other peaceful Mediterranean town with its marinas and Roman ruins. Geologically, however, the entirety of Pozzuoli sits directly inside the massive caldera of Campi Flegrei, an underground supervolcano spanning 100 square kilometers, most of which lies hidden beneath the ground and the seabed. Living on top of a supervolcano means the people of Pozzuoli must face a bizarre phenomenon known as bradyseism. Pressure from magma pockets and gases deep underground continuously pushes the entire town upward and then pulls it back down. Historically, there have been periods when the ground in Pozzuoli was thrust up by more than 3 meters, turning bustling harbors into dry shallows and forcing thousands to abandon their homes and evacuate. This threat has never disappeared. In recent times alone, the ground beneath the feet of Pozzuoli's residents has continuously trembled with thousands of minor earthquakes. These constant tremors crack roads, fracture ancient structures, and leave long fissures tearing through the walls of local homes. The low, dull rumbles echoing from the earth at night have become a familiar backdrop to daily life here. Pozzuoli's infrastructure consists of narrow alleys and densely packed buildings dating back to antiquity. Fully aware of the danger, the Italian government has drafted emergency evacuation plans to relocate all residents via buses and trains within 72 hours under a red alert. However, geological experts and the locals themselves understand that, given the current frequently gridlocked traffic network, evacuating tens of thousands of panicking people in a short window of time is a starkly realistic and high-risk challenge. Despite living on a geological powder keg, the people of Pozzuoli resolutely refuse to leave. The core reason remains their livelihood. The volcanic soil here is incredibly fertile, nurturing olive groves and vineyards that yield highly valuable wines. Additionally, the thermal hot springs and natural sulfur vents have made Pozzuoli a renowned resort and tourist hub from the days of Roman emperors to the present. The locals do not view Campi Flegrei as an impending disaster. Instead, they consider the earthquakes and the rising and falling of the ground as natural characteristics of their homeland. They continue to patch up the cracks in their walls, open their doors to tourists, and maintain their daily rhythm right on the caldera of Europe's most active supervolcano. Number 7. Nicolosi, Sicily, Italy. Sitting at an altitude of over 700 meters on the southern slope of Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, Nicolosi is known as the gateway to Etna. Unlike the city of Catania, which lies more safely on the coastal plains below, the 10,000-plus residents of Nicolosi live directly on massive layers of black basalt, rock formed from the very lava flows that solidified over centuries. Living right next to a volcano over 3,300 meters high means facing volcanic ash year-round. Whenever Mount Etna erupts, winds carry thick black ash rains that blanket Nicolosi's rooftops, balconies, and streets. Going outside to sweep away this abrasive ash layer, much like raking fallen autumn leaves, has become an essential part of daily life for locals. Even the nearby international airport frequently faces periodic closures as smoke and ash severely reduce flight visibility. Historically, Nicolosi was run over by a river of fire and had most of its homes flattened during the catastrophic eruption of 1669. Yet, instead of abandoning this land to migrate down to the plains, generations of residents resolutely returned to rebuild their homes on the exact same ground. They came up with a practical solution, carving cooled blocks of black lava into bricks to build houses, lay foundations, and pave roads, transforming a material of destruction into a sturdy protective shell for the new town. The primary reason the people of Nicolosi accept staying at this hazardous altitude is their specialized agricultural livelihood. The mountainside soil formed from Etna's ash possesses an exceptionally high mineral content, turning this area into prime land for orange and lemon orchards, and especially high-quality grapevines used to produce Etna Rosso wine, a brand that brings immense economic value to the town. Furthermore, as the final stopping point before ascending the volcano's summit, Nicolosi has developed a bustling tourism economy. Local residents operate lodging services, run off-road mountain climbing tours, and sell souvenirs crafted from volcanic stone to the hundreds of thousands of tourists flocking here each year. The native Sicilians do not call Etna a volcano. They simply call it a montagna, meaning the mountain. To them, the volcano is like a familiar, natural entity within the family. They monitor daily geological reports and know the evacuation routes down the mountain inside out. Yet they continue to sustain their lives, businesses, and farming right on the lava beds of this continuously active mountain. Number 6. Grindavík Regions Peninsula, Iceland. There are towns where disaster is not a thing of the past. It is unfolding right now, directly in front of national television cameras. This is Grindavík, a small fishing town on Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula, where 4,000 people are being forced to abandon their homes because the ground beneath their feet continuously cracks and sinks due to geological shifts. Located about 50 kilometers from the capital, Reykjavik, the town is built directly on top of the Svartsengi volcanic system, a geological region that had slept for 800 years. In late 2023, however, this system suddenly roared back to life. In a span of just over a year, residents here have had to witness more than 10 consecutive eruptions. It all began on a day in November 2023. After enduring thousands of minor earthquakes over 2 weeks, the ground began to deform. Giant fissures ripped through roads, splitting houses and children's playgrounds in half. When the emergency sirens wailed, residents were given exactly 5 minutes to rush back into their homes, grab whatever they could carry, and flee. Since that fateful day, life for the people of Grindavík has been packed into a single suitcase. It remains constantly ready, sitting right by the front door, passports, medication, family photos, all packed. They live in a state of never knowing where they will sleep tonight, or if their home will even exist tomorrow. On Icelandic national television, viewers can watch Grindavík live via 24/7 surveillance cameras. It is an uneven battle. The government has constructed massive earthen defense walls around the town in an attempt to block the lava flows. In some sections, the barriers successfully held, but on other nights, people watched helplessly as a fiery red river of lava breached the obstacles, swallowing houses within minutes. Human resilience always has heartbreaking limits. Many residents have lost their homes forever. Making matters worse, insurance companies refuse to pay out, categorizing the events as pre-warned natural disasters. Right beside the town sits the Blue Lagoon, the world-famous geothermal spa. The facility has had to close multiple times due to toxic gas. The image of tourists soaking in warm waters while gazing at a towering column of fire and smoke on the horizon has become a bizarre symbol of adaptation. Grindavík currently faces a massive question regarding its existence. Should the town be rebuilt? Who will fund the reconstruction of a place that could be wiped out at any moment. The people of Grindavík do not yet have answers for the future. The only thing they possess is a suitcase waiting by the door and a stubborn love for their land. Number 5. Devonport, Auckland, New Zealand. Looking at the historic Victorian villas, romantic seaside cafes, and lush green lawns of Devonport, you would think this is just a peaceful, affluent suburb located a short ferry ride away from Auckland's financial centre. However, if you flip through geological maps, the truth is startling. This entire historic town is built directly over and wedged between two of the largest volcanic craters in the Auckland volcanic field, Mount Victoria and North Head. Unlike other places where residents contend with a single solitary mountain, Auckland sits right on top of a geological hotspot containing over 50 volcanic vents. The people of Devonport live, walk and sleep every night directly above magma chambers that cooled thousands of years ago. The two iconic hills where tourists eagerly check in are in reality ancient lava vents. Underground tubes channeling geothermal flows still run faintly deep beneath million-dollar villas, warming the soil unusually. Human adaptation here carries a very distinctive character. Instead of living in fear, residents have transformed these volcanic craters into part of the town's living infrastructure. Right on the summit of Mount Victoria, massive reservoirs were excavated to supply water to the entire town. Meanwhile, at North Head, the natural volcanic cave systems were utilized by the military to construct bunkers and fortifications during the World Wars. Local children play on the steep grassy slopes where molten rock once surged, viewing the terrain as a gift of nature. The greatest paradox in Devonport lies in its real estate prices. Even though geologists constantly issue warnings that the Auckland volcanic field is by no means dead but merely monogenetic and dormant, meaning a completely new crater could erupt anywhere in the city. Without warning, house prices here remain among the most expensive in New Zealand. People are willing to spend millions of dollars to own a stunning ocean view, accepting the reality that their home foundations are anchored deep into volcanic basalt rock. The livelihood of the locals depends entirely on the peace of this land. Tourism and real estate sustain the town. Every day, ferries busily transport crowds from the mainland to hike up the volcanic peaks and watch the sunset. The residents of Devonport understand the geological structure beneath their feet very well. They participate seriously in the city's disaster response drills, but upon returning home, they continue to enjoy a luxurious life by the bay, choosing to look past the fact that they are settled on land that could reawaken at any moment. Number 4. Kaliurang, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. If there is a place where the boundary between life and death is determined solely by the direction of the wind, It is Kaliurang. This highland tourist town sits at an altitude of 900 meters above sea level, positioned right on the edge of the core hazard zone of Mount Merapi, Indonesia's most ferocious and unpredictable volcano. From the town center, you only need to look up to see the towering, ash-gray summit of Merapi, constantly venting smoke less than 8 kilometers away. The greatest threat in Kaliurang is not slow-moving lava, but wedhus gembel, a local term referring to pyroclastic flows of superheated gas and volcanic ash. These can reach temperatures of over 700 degrees Celsius and hurtle down the mountainside at the speed of a Formula One racing car, scorching and obliterating everything in their path. The catastrophic eruption of 2010 turned many neighboring villages into wasteland, leaving hot ash to bleach the town's tree lines and forcing thousands to flee into the night. Living in such a precarious position, the people of Kaliurang have turned survival into a natural reflex. Along the town's main roads, blue emergency evacuation signs appear densely alongside local eateries. Every house and hotel is linked to a community radio network operating 24/7 to update residents on Merapi's slightest shift. Local youths join volunteer teams, taking turns patrolling and standing guard at geological observation posts whenever the mountain enters a restless cycle. The paradox of Kaliurang lies in the fact that Merapi's very danger is the lifeblood that sustains the entire town. The soil here is so fertile that orchards and pine ridges remain lush year-round, nourished by abundant mineral ash. More importantly, the town's economy relies entirely on off-road Jeep adventure tours, a highly lucrative service here. Every day, four-wheel drive vehicles roar in convoys, taking tourists through rugged paths filled with old lava traces to visit concrete bunkers that once served as shelters, creating a livelihood inextricably linked to danger. The native Javanese people of Kaliurang hold a deep spiritual belief in the mountain. They do not view Merapi as an enemy, but reverently refer to it as grandfather. They believe that if they live in harmony, respect nature, and listen to the warning signs from grandfather, they will be protected. They continue to patch up their roofs after every ashfall season, welcome convoys of tourists heading up the mountain, and accept a life lived in constant suspense right beneath a volcano that is always ready to reawaken. Number 3. Talisay, Batangas, Philippines. Stretching along the gentle shores of Lake Taal in Batangas province, Talisay looks on the surface like a peaceful lakeside resort town with bustling fishing villages and fish farming cages. Yet, that placid lake surface is actually the massive caldera of Taal Volcano, one of the most complex and dangerous active volcanoes in the Philippines. The entire town sits along the outer rim, holding direct administrative oversight over a volcanic island located right at the center of the lake. The greatest threat in Talisay is the sudden displacement of the lake water and high-pressure, phreatic, steam-driven eruptions. When Tal volcano awakens, it does not just spew ash from its central core island. It can boil the entire surrounding water body, releasing toxic sulfur gases and triggering miniature tsunamis across the lake. A violent eruption in early 2020 turned the sky into a dark grey expanse, dumping heavy mud rains onto the town and forcing an emergency evacuation of all residents in sheer panic. Living beside a lake that can turn into a boiling cauldron at any moment, the people of Talisay have been forced to build their lives around boats. Every household in the lakeside fishing villages owns a large motorized boat docked at the pier. These are not just for daily commutes, but serve as their ultimate lifelines. Whenever seismic stations record an increase in tremors, or the lake water begins to bubble with toxic gases, residents immediately secure their boats, lock up their homes, and move their entire families to the far side of the mainland for safety. The paradox here is that the people of Talisay cannot distance themselves from this lake because the very livelihood that sustains them lies beneath its waters. Lake Tal contains an exceptionally rich concentration of volcanic minerals, making it one of the highest yielding tilapia and milkfish farming regions on Luzon Island. Dense networks of fish cages across the water bring a stable economic income to thousands of families. Furthermore, operating boat shuttles to take tourists over to visit the central volcanic island was a goldmine for local businesses before the government permanently banned human settlement on the island. After each disaster, once the ash settles and the lockdown orders are lifted, the people of Talisay quietly row their boats back home. They wash away the mud clinging to their walls, repair damaged fish cages, and cast their nets once again. They understand they are sharing their living space with an unpredictable volcano, but driven by their livelihood and a deep connection to the water, they still choose to anchor their lives to this lakeshore every single day. Number 2. Cagsawa, Albay, Philippines. If there is an icon that most starkly captures human helplessness in the face of a volcano, it is the Cagsawa Church belfry. This stone tower is the sole remnant of a once bustling town, sitting right at the foot of Mount Mayon, a volcano famed for its perfectly symmetrical cone, but notorious for having the most frequent eruptions in the Philippines. The entire rest of the ancient town, including its sturdy church, has lain deep underground since a fateful day in the 19th century. The eruption of 1814 went down in regional history as a horrific tragedy. As Mount Mayon unleashed torrents of volcanic mud and rock, thousands of residents rushed to take refuge inside the Cagsawa Church, hoping its thick stone walls would shield them. However, the scalding mud flow completely engulfed the structure, burying over 1,000 people inside. Today, the belfry, rising amidst lush green fields, stands as a silent monument, reminding future generations of what lies beneath their feet. Despite the old town being wiped out, the people of the Cagsawa region did not abandon their homeland. They merely pulled back to a marginally safer distance to establish new villages, continuing to live and farm right within sight of the 2,400-meter-high volcano. To the residents here, periodic eruptions accompanied by loud explosions from Mayon's summit are no longer a surprise. They are accustomed to watching fiery red lava streams crawl down the mountainside at night, viewing it as a dangerous yet familiar display of nature. The primary reason this area remains heavily populated is the abundance that Mount Mayon bestows. Over time, the volcanic ash has transformed the soil around Cagsawa into one of the most fertile rice and coconut growing regions in Albay province. Farming on this volcanic terrain yields exceptional harvests, sustaining generations of local families. Simultaneously, the Cagsawa Belfry ruins and the majestic beauty of Mount Mayon have turned this location into the region's largest tourism hub. Local residents operate all-terrain vehicle rental services that guide visitors through streams filled with volcanic rock while running eateries, lodgings, and selling handicrafts. The threat of the mountain does not frighten them as much as the prospect of losing the livelihood tied to it. Whenever Mount Mayon shows signs of intense activity and the government establishes a 6-kilometer danger zone, the people of Cagsawa pack their belongings to evacuate to schools in the city center. Yet, the moment the mountain calms down, they immediately return to their rice fields and tourist ATVs. They accept living alongside a grave of the past, maintaining their daily rhythm right under the shadow of a volcano that could reawaken at any moment. Number 1. Shimabara, Nagasaki, Japan. Located on the Shimabara Peninsula of Kyushu Island, the coastal town of Shimabara is home to over 30,000 residents. From afar, the town exudes a peaceful charm, featuring mineral spring water flowing through narrow alleys and carp swimming in clean canals. Yet, right behind this serenity looms Mount Unzen, a ferocious volcanic complex that once triggered the worst landslide and tsunami in Japanese history, claiming over 15,000 lives in the 18th century. After 200 years of dormancy, the mountain suddenly reawakened in 1990. The crisis peaked on June 3, 1991, when a lava dome on the summit collapsed, triggering a pyroclastic flow of superheated gas and ash that hurtled down the slopes at over 100 kilometers per hour. That tragedy incinerated hundreds of homes on the town's outskirts and claimed 43 lives, including world-renowned geologists and journalists covering the event on site. The Japanese adaptation in Shimabara post-disaster represents the pinnacle of engineering and discipline. Rather than abandoning the entire town, the government constructed a massive system of check dams and flood control channels running directly from the mountainside to the sea. Engineers installed an array of surveillance cameras and seismic sensors operating 24/7 to detect mud flows, lahars, early whenever heavy rain falls. The residents of Shimabara participate in periodic evacuation drills so rigorous that they can clear the danger zone within minutes of the sirens wailing. The reason the people of Shimabara resolutely anchor themselves to this land is that the volcano provides them with two massive sources of livelihood: agriculture and groundwater. Thanks to the volcanic ash, the soil in Shimabara possesses exceptional fertility, making it highly suitable for growing top-quality agricultural produce. More notably, the natural filtration system within Mount Unzen creates an abundance of pure groundwater that naturally surges throughout the town. Locals utilize this water for daily life, fish farming, and developing a highly lucrative hot spring Unzen tourism industry. To preserve memories and warn future generations, the town has preserved an area buried during the 1991 disaster, building a dome to protect houses swallowed halfway by mud and establishing the Mount Unzen Disaster Memorial Museum. Today, the people of Shimabara choose to live in harmony with the mountain. They enjoy the cool, fresh water and the tourist revenue, accepting the reality that they are settled right at the foot of one of the most closely monitored volcanoes on the planet. These 9 towns represent 9 completely different facets of life, proving one thing: humans do not choose to run away from the power of the earth. Looking at the lush green vineyards bathing in volcanic ash, or houses rising directly from ancient lava foundations, we truly see how wondrous and forgiving our earth can be. Volcanoes may bring danger, but they also bestow fertile land and pure energy sources that have sustained humanity for thousands of years. Our planet is still alive, still shifting every day, and being able to immerse ourselves in that grand heartbeat is truly a priceless experience. If this journey across 9 coordinates has brought you fresh perspectives on the world, please support me with a like and subscribe. And if given the choice, would you dare to live in one of these 9 towns? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next stories.